I was at work when yet another one of my coworkers started a conversation about their chainsaw, and when your division has over 500 workers, I tend to get into conversations like this a lot. They said they had a saw they wanted me to look at, and that was it. They didn't mention any issues with it, and to be honest, that's the way I like it. It makes it a little bit more interesting. I was extremely surprised to see that this is what they brought me. It's an absolute gem of a saw when compared to the junk I sometimes fix. In today's video, we look at this Stihl chainsaw, and the problem is that I was handed this saw to work on without any ideas as to what the issue was with it. Now, if you didn't know, my channel does not specialize in chainsaws, but I do what I can to get them running, and that's about it. Hopefully, this one isn't going to be anything too difficult. Now, I'm going to try and repair this chainsaw, but yours might be a little different, so this might not work on yours. If things aren't working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. The first thing I'm going to do is look over the saw and see if there's anything obviously wrong with it. I'm looking to see if there's anything broken on it or if there's something missing. Luckily, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this saw that I can say is going to keep it from running. Now, the bar looks to be the original one and will eventually need to be replaced, but for right now, it should be okay. Now, I'm no chain expert, but this one is one very substantial chain that's meant to do some serious work. I think it could use a good sharpening, though. If we take a closer look, you can see that this bar has seen quite a bit of heat. I've got to wonder how well the oiler is working or if they've run it out of bar oil at some point. The next thing I want to do is look at the fluids and see if there's any in it, and if so, what kind of condition it's in. Luckily, the saw is full of fuel, and from the color and smell, it seems to be very fresh. Now, I do plan on trying to start the saw, and if it doesn't start, the first place I'm going to look at is the fuel in the tank. The strange thing is that after taking the cap off the oil tank, you can see that it's full of bar oil, which doesn't always happen. I've got to wonder if this saw is always stored full of fluids, which is something I would not recommend. Now, the manual only suggests that you drain the fuel from the tank and the carb, but I would typically drain the bar oil as well, just in case it should leak out. And the only thing left to do now is to try and start it and see if it can even do that. I really do want to apologize to anyone who works with saws for a living about continuing to cut this log with a dull chain, but I needed to confirm that it was dull, and after making 2 cuts, I can safely say, yeah, it's quite dull. Now, I did check to make sure the oiler was working, so I think the only issue is that they continue to use this saw without doing any maintenance and checks like they're supposed to. So the biggest question now is, what do I do now? I mean, I know it works, and the only thing I would recommend is to replace the bar and chain or sharpen it. Otherwise, this thing really doesn't need anything from me to get it to work. There is one thing I want to do, and that's to take the advice of someone about cleaning it once I knew it was fixed, so that's what I'm going to do. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to answer a few questions or topics I've gotten recently. The first topic has to do with different brands and brand loyalty, which is something I don't have a problem with. If the only brand you could budget for is home light equipment, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you have a major dislike for the brand and insist that other people should toss it in favor of their brand, I don't feel that's very necessary. And besides that, the next person could say the very same thing about your choice, even if your choice happens to be a highly regarded piece of equipment. Now just pick what you can and try to take good care of it, and it'll take care of you. Now, there's nothing wrong with Stihl equipment. I think it's a very good brand with a solid reputation. However, I have gotten some comments saying they're not as good as they appear and that I should try a different brand in hopes I would change over to Team Mystic instead of the blue one I'm with right now. Brand loyalty is a good thing, but telling me I'm an idiot for choosing an affordable brand is a bit uncalled for. So the question came up, which Stihl equipment would you buy and not buy? Well, if I had a choice, I would buy an FS56 trimmer because I think it's easy to use, has great power, and a great price. For my choice in blowers, I'm going to choose two. A BG50 for the same reason, and I'm also going to choose a backpack because of the trees I have in my area. So I'm going to go with the BR450, and the reason is simple, because of the electric start. And the final one would be an MS170 chainsaw, and the reason is I don't do a lot of cutting around here, so there's no need for something more powerful or expensive. Now, the stuff I wouldn't buy might be a bit more critical, but since I was asked, I don't have a problem answering. The trimmer I would absolutely not buy is the FS38, and the reason is that I don't find it easy to use. I'm not sure why, but it's very awkward. As for blowers, I don't think the BR200 is a good buy, only because of price versus its capabilities. For only a little less, you can get the BG86 that will outperform it with about the same amount of effort. And as for chainsaws, I don't find that the MS194 is a good value as far as it being for a homeowner. Now, it is very versatile, but the price is just too much for me to consider. Now that I know which Stihl products I would buy, what if I couldn't buy them? Which other brands and models would I want to take their place? That's pretty easy. I would buy an Echo SRM225 trimmer because I think it's a great value and it's easy to use. An Echo PB2520 handheld blower because of its design and cost. And as for the backpack, I would go with the Echo PB580T. And as for the chainsaw, I would get the Echo CS310, both of which I think is a great value. Now, after making this list, I never really thought of myself as an Echo person, but I guess I am. It's just too bad they don't make a lawnmower. So why all the Echo products? Well, it's pretty simple. Of all the products I've had to fix and use, they simply feel better in my hands while using them. The other factor is the cost. Now, I could have said a different blower brand because it's cheaper, but I don't think they're as good a quality as the Echo brand. Now, I can hear people shouting at the screen about all the brands they use as being better, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, with that in mind, what other brand and models would I get if I couldn't get any Echo products, or if I was on a tight budget? Now, this one is going to get weird, so hold on to your hat. Now, for the trimmer, I would get a Homelight straight shaft trimmer. Why? Because it's from a company that's been around for a very long time. It doesn't weigh that much, and it's easy to use. Now, at almost $60 more than the cheapest trimmer I could find, why not buy that one? Well, it's not just an issue of cost. I want it to have some track record when it comes to reliability, so I don't want to waste my money on junk brands I've never heard of before. As for the blowers, I would buy a troy-bilt TB400 and a Craftsman BP510 because of cost, and finally for a chainsaw, I would choose a Craftsman S1450. I don't necessarily want to buy the cheapest products I can find, but I do want to make sure I get one from a company that wasn't made last week because the original name didn't sound like it was from this area. Now, I'm not saying these options are a good product, only that I'm willing to take a chance on these, and that hopefully with a bit of good maintenance, they'll last longer than 2 seasons. So after a good cleaning, this chainsaw looks almost brand new, and to be honest, I think it pretty much was. I think they bought it, used it a couple of times on a couple of trees, and that was it. And in that time, the chain dulled quite a bit, and that's how I got here. Now, if my coworker gave me an opportunity to buy this saw from him, I wouldn't do it unless it was a really good deal. And the reason is because I don't need a saw of this caliber, but if you need something like this, then yes, I would definitely consider buying one of these. So in the end, I'm not really sure why he wanted me to look at it. Maybe he thought something was wrong with it, or it's been sitting for some time and wanted me to look at it and report what I find and maybe fix it if it needed it. Either way, I'm happy to have this opportunity because I don't normally get to see them when they're this new. So my question is really simple. Do you need a saw of this caliber? If so, would you consider buying a Stihl, or is there a different brand you'd rather buy? Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.